Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of AEC Unplugged. I'm your host, Danielle Gray. I currently serve as the Director of Content and Knowledge Resources at SMPS HQ, and I am so excited, just like basically every episode, to be able to be here with you. So, if you are here live in the chat, please tell me where you are joining from. We have so many different people from all across from coast to coast, honestly. So please tell us where you're coming from. And if you're in the SMPS chapter, go ahead and shout them out as well. So, look, we're in season two. We have talked about so many things, even just in this season. So, I would encourage you, if you have not seen any of these episodes before, go to YouTube, the SMPS HQ YouTube. We have an AEC Unplugged playlist. Go there, check out the very awesome episodes. I mean, we've talked about wellness, we've talked about networking, we've talked about presentation skills, we've talked about AI, and I mean, it's project management. There's so many that I truly can't even remember all of them. So, um, I have learned so much, and it's been really a joy to have so many thought leaders here. So, make sure if you haven't already, join in and watch the episodes. Okay. Also, let's see. We have. I always like to do a few announcements before we get started because I mean, what are we? Am I marketing or not? Right. So, look, we have. We just launched a new blog. It's SMPS Insights. Be sure to check that out. If you're interested in guest blogging, I actually even received an email. I will write you back. I I saw you. um, but we are really excited about everything that's coming up. So make sure to tune in with SMPS Insights. We also are having a exclusive CPSM learning series. So if you are a CPSM, this is your time to shine. There's going to be a three-part series. Actually, Scott Butcher, who was on, I guess, a episode ago, was really awesome. He talked about trends that we need to know. So he's going to be speaking in that series, and he's also going to be speaking at the Pinnacle Experience. But more on that in a moment. And then we have, let's see, we have AEC.BD, which is our it's building business development success in a post-pandemic world report. So we're doing that in partnership with Stan Ballness. It is a great report. It's free, so sign up and get that, download that as soon as you possibly can. Great insights there. Let's see, what else? What else? Oh, we have an upcoming webinar that's happening next week. This is going to be the interplay of business development and marketing communication. So if you joined, that was actually last week with Sierra Wharton. We had a great discussion about how you bring those worlds together because they should be together, right? They should be. So make sure to tune in for that. So all of that. Okay, I've done my promo. I've done my shameless plugs. Okay, let's talk about the episode today, which is episode 6, season 2, continuous growth for senior marketing professionals. I think that, and I'm growing in my field. I'm learning so much. I'm networking so much, and I hear a lot of different things as it relates to continuous improvement for senior marketers and business developers, and honestly, principals and all of that. So today's episode is going to be really interesting because we're going to have two guests, not one, but two guests that they are representing the Pinnacle Committee. So I'm going to introduce Stacy Stout and Alec Gleason to the AEC Unplugged stage. How's it going, everybody?
Great. Thanks for having me,
Good.
Danielle.
Yes, I'm so glad that you can experience and be a part of AEC Unplugged. It's been kind of like my little baby. So and also always like to shout out Devin Stubbs in the background as our producer. She is amazing. So
She is amazing.
she is. She gets us all together. So here's where I want to start. It's not going to be about senior marketing professionals yet. I always like to ask my guest, Stacy, did you dream about being in the AEC industry when you were 6 years old, or how did you how did you get here? Tell me about your story to AEC into the AEC industry.
Yeah, so no, I did not obviously have that on my bucket list of things when I was 6 years old, thinking, I want to be an AEC marketer. However, I did grow up in the construction industry. So my best friend's mom owned an interior design and custom home building company, and we were charged with things that young teenage girls should probably not be doing on big construction sites for multi-million-dollar homes. So we had to learn very quickly, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved everything about it, working with the teams on site, and we were managing subs as 15 and 16-year-old girls. I mean,
Wow.
OSHA would not have been very happy if they had any idea what we were doing. But so anyway, I grew up in that environment and I absolutely loved it, fell in love with it, and through a very windy path, ended up here full time and with an advertising background, but came back to the place I love, and that is building.
Nice. Very
Must not have
cool.
been a union job, I'm guessing, Stacy.
Yeah, not so much.
Alec, what about you? How did you make your way into the industry?
Oh, she's got such a better story than me. I completely stumbled into this world. I came in to Toki 10 years ago. I interviewed with our owner at that time, and I basically positioned my job as like, what can I do to make your life better? And at the time, our owner, Eric Toki, at that time was really on the later stretches of his career, basically said, if I could just be doing brand strategy for the rest of my time here, that would, brand strategy for architects, that would make me happy as a clam. So, my job security basically meant finding us more work within the AEC space. And that's how I found FSMPS, and the rest is history, as they say.
That's always, you'd be surprised how many times I hear I found SMPS and who like they saved me. It was so helpful, the networking. And so and I have a very similar story that I didn't really know what I knew people did what I did somewhere out there, but to be around people, to go to conferences, go to webinars with people that understand this work that we're doing is just so important. So, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your entry point into the industry. Now, let's talk about being a senior marketer. What are some common challenges that you're faced with, or you hear your colleagues being faced with, as it relates to being a senior marketer, Stacy?
I think one of the big things, and just from experience working inside firms as well, is being expected to really know how to do everything. I think that's one of the challenges specifically, and it's interesting because one of the things I've learned, and one of the things that I've taken away from the Pinnacle experience, some of our speakers in the past that have really opened up our eyes on other industries as well, is sometimes we pigeonhole ourselves thinking that we're so different, the built environment, and we are so different than all these other industries. And it's interesting. Thomas Barta and I had a conversation about that, but it's not. Tech industry has a lot of challenges that we do as well. So, we say that it's that we're expected. I think one of the things that in the built environment that is the challenge is that we're not as adept at filling key roles with people with experience, is specialty expertise. So, a senior marketer is expected to be an amazing PR specialist. You're supposed to obviously do strategy. Then you're supposed to understand how to integrate all of these really cool technologies into your marketing strategy, how you execute on everything. So we really are expected to be really good specialists and generalists at the same time. And that, the balancing of understanding how you can be effective by being a specialist and a generalist is, I think, one of the biggest challenges in this space.
100%.
I could totally see that. What about you, Alec?
I mean, I absolutely will parrot what Stacy said. In fact, that is what I hear. I am not a marketer, right? But our clients are. So I come from this perspective of what we learned through our client engagements. And it never ceases to amaze me the role that AEC firms expect their marketers to play. They literally expect these people to be Swiss Army knives with a huge array of skills. And in no other world would that be acceptable. So we often find ourselves in the role of just how can we put balance back into our clients' lives? How can we maybe shoulder some of that burden so they can go deeper and have a little bit more specialized expertise on the things that they're probably a little bit more passionate about than maybe proposal design or whatever the case might be. So we try to find a way, I think, to alleviate some of that stress and burden. But my hope against hope is that the industry as a whole will start to understand that we should have more than one person doing all these different things.
Right.
There's a reason why marketing serves the purpose that it does within all the other consumer worlds, and why groups should have a dedicated marketing team and a dedicated marketing staff rather than a single individual holding all these responsibilities. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said a specialist and a generalist, that is a lot of ground to cover. So when we're thinking about it, obviously we're going to talk about the Pinnacle experience a little bit. Do you find, or when people say like, oh, I don't need, you don't have anything for me, the content's not really there. I have, this is too general for me. What would you say to someone that hasn't been to the Pinnacle experience, or maybe even has been to a Pinnacle experience before and feels like they're done? What would you say to them, Alec? How would you approach that?
It's so fun. I had this conversation today, Danielle.
Okay.
It's not. I was on a call earlier today, and a gal even had CPSM behind her name in her LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew she had experience with FSMPS, and then we went into the conversation talking about another organization. But when I saw the accreditation behind her name, so you're familiar with FSMPS? And she's like, yeah, but I stopped going because it seemed like the content was really geared towards marketing coordinators or lower level staff, and I wasn't seeing the value that I thought I would get at. And immediately the first, well, have you heard of this? Have you ever been to this event, or have you been to even the national conference recently? Because I do think things have definitely evolved. I think the content in particular for Pinnacle is one of the best learning experiences for people within the industry, because it does tend to pull from experts outside of AEC. And I think there's so many learning opportunities that come in tow with that. I think the idea that we can't maybe leverage some consumer marketing tactics because we're a professional services firm, I don't think anything could be further from the truth. And I think there's a lot to be learned from having just an opportunity to learn about the similar experiences from an industry outside of your day-to-day, because we talked about it. Everyone is so inundated with tasks and having to do so many different things within a firm. It's almost impossible to have the opportunity to really research what's going on outside of the industry. So this is an opportunity for you to be with your people, be with your tribe, but also scratch that itch of what's happening that I don't know about, and how can I maybe leverage some of these insights, apply them back to our own firms.
No, that's great. Stacy, do you encounter that, or have you heard someone say, oh, I don't know about the Pinnacle experience this year? What do you say back to them?
Well, this program was specifically developed to address the gap for senior marketers. I mean, this was developed a decade ago with us talking about where are we missing the mark for senior marketers, because we do obviously see a drop off. And by the way, I just want to reiterate, this is something that BMA is challenged with. It's not just FSMPS. It is organizations that focus on marketers across the country and across the globe. It is a challenge for even tech. How do you keep AIA, fellows engaged in an organization when they don't feel like they have anything to learn either? So this is a very common problem. And this was the answer for FSMPS. The Pinnacle experience was developed to fill that need. And I have been involved from the beginning. So I'm a little bit obviously passionate and biased about what we do.
I love passion.
I know. But as a marketer, luckily, I was in advertising. I was very aligned with AMA, BMA, a lot of organizations that are outside of the AEC space. And I learned marketing and advertising, and grew my chops there before I came to this space. And so for me, that's what we did. I mean, when we were doing brand strategy or creative briefs for clients, if we were working with a banking group, I would take my team to a bank And we would sit in the lobby and look at what is the customer experience? What are we missing here? What can we add to it? What can we leverage? And then I would take them to like an amusement park. How can we, people are excited here. How can we bring some of that enthusiasm to a banking environment where it's more pleasurable to be there than just doing your banking? How can you make that experience for a customer more engaging and more fulfilling? So that's what this is about, is we're taking what we know about the practice of marketing for the AEC space, but bringing in perspectives. So, you can go to other conferences, and I encourage you to do that. I think it's really important to get out of our world of just our specialty and look at what other organizations and other businesses are doing. Just like Alex said, I think there's a lot to be learned, but we're using the safe space of an organization that and we all love, FSMPS, and we're bringing you that outside perspective. We're pretty adamant about that. And we do not fill it with typical content that's developed and presented at regionals or national conference. We bring speakers that are going to challenge us to think differently, bring us tools and skills that are going to help us grow our leadership chops. That is our whole focus, is what can we do? What can we bring in that is unique and different? So when you think about the gap for senior marketers, we're wholly focused on that, because leadership does not happen by accident. It is an intentional process, and we're trying to fill that gap to help you develop those skills. Because like we said, many of us, when I was working in firms internally, I was the lone marketer in some instances. Lone marketer, primary rainmaker, and graphic designer, and all the other things. So when you have that, you don't have a lot of leadership that you can learn from or grow from or collaborate with or brainstorm with. That's what this space is intended to do for senior marketers.
I love what you said about safe space. I think that's there's all the different things, right? Obviously the learning coming from the industry, but safe spaces, that is something really special in itself, which leads me to my next question. I am talking to, for those that are watching, these are Pinnacle veterans. Okay. So Alec, I heard that you have been to every single Pinnacle experience. So I'm going to ask you the impossible question, which is, what's your most memorable Pinnacle experience?
So I have to confess, I definitely thought that was true.
Okay.
It came to my attention last week by a colleague that a Pinnacle may have occurred in Denver, Colorado, where my counterpart went in my stead. So I may not have attended every single one.
Okay. I
love that someone called you out.
I like that you brought it.
Keeping everybody honest.
Right. Almost every Pinnacle.
It's so hard to narrow it down to one. I really did have a struggle with this one. And honestly, I think they all stand out in their own ways. Ultimately, my favorite was last year's in Las Vegas. I think it was last year. Was in Vegas. I mean, it's Las Vegas. It was 2 years ago.
2022.
Yeah.
The time from 2020 to 2024 is all, you could just call it whatever you want.
Time warp, 100%.
Right.
It's impossible to have a bad time in Las Vegas, but in particular with the venue and the city, and it just happened to coincide with my birthday. It was just kind of an absolutely memorable trip. Just walked away from that one really feeling like I just experienced something really special in these last couple of days. Can't wait. Hopefully that happens and it comes back to Las Vegas at some point in time. But that was definitely a standout in my mind.
Nice. Vegas is pretty good. Now we're going to Atlanta this year, which is, I am a little biased. This is my hometown. So, Atlanta's pretty great. But before we get to that, Stacy, I'm curious about two things. One is definitely your memorable experience, but also your experience on being on the committee. Like how does that help you? What do you get out of serving on a committee, specifically on the Pinnacle experience?
I love that question, Danielle. So, because it is a labor of love.
Yeah, sure.
It really is. And again, because every year, our small group, we have a budget that is, we always want more, that we can bring in speakers, because, there were definitely some years where I said, this is who we need. I really want us to bring this person in. And of course, the team did their due diligence and reached out and said, Stacy, they're $50,000. We can't even afford that one speaker. So there's limitations, and that's a great challenge, I believe, for us, is how do we bring great content to this audience that I am interested in. As a senior marketer, I am looking at what do we all need? When I talk to my friends and we're talking about the challenges they're having in their organizations or in their leadership growth, what are the things that I hear from them and the things that I think would be interesting? So that challenge of finding content that is not typical, that's not been regurgitated, that is new and fresh, and that we can bring great new perspective on a budget. Because, by the way, this is a leadership task that we're all tasked with in our organizations every day. How do we, reach our goals within the budget that we've been given to reach them? So that is why I continue to come back. It's a really, and I believe it's a really important program. I get a lot out of it every year. There, just as Alex said, there's an aha moment. There is definitely something that you take away every year that you can take and make actionable plans around and make progress in your organization or with your personal goals and objectives. So there is absolute value that you can gain from every single program. But I will say, going back to my favorite, it's the same as Alex, and it's so funny, Alec, I am very disappointed that I didn't know it was your birthday as well. But that 2022 in Las Vegas was a very special year for me. I was celebrating a very big milestone birthday. That was the same anniversary that FSMPS was celebrating. And there had been a lot of fun and obviously some really cool experiences that all of my friends and the FSMPS staff and everyone had created around that moment. So obviously that was super memorable.
Oh, absolutely.
But Vegas was also where Thomas Varda was part of the program, and he's phenomenal. A worldwide speaker who does a marketing leadership camp for senior marketers in big industries as well. But again, a very important aha moment that reminded me that we're not so unique. The challenges that marketers face across industries around the world are very similar. So we need to take that we're special and we have special needs, mentality and film off, and really look at it as how do we leverage things that are happening in other environments, or even connecting with other marketers outside this space to be better.
Right. And I'm hearing, clearly I missed the party, not a party. I missed a great conference in Vegas. It's hard to say Vegas and not mention that part, but there's birthdays, all the different things. So that sounds really great. Also, I'm like, okay, what is Atlanta? What's in store for Atlanta? So I'm curious, Alec, if there's something that you can pull, what are you most excited about? Or I know there's a lot of things, but if you can maybe pull one or two, what are you most excited about?
Hands down. I'm always excited to get back with my FSMPS people and get to see, the folks that may not have gone to the national conference. So getting connected with people is always at top of my list. But this year in particular, I'm so stoked for Emily's presentation from F1, Emily Prazer.
Oh, yeah.
I am a huge fan of F1. That Netflix series blows my mind. And ever since then, I have been just fascinated with the sport and how quickly it has grown. And I just can't wait to see how Emily is able to apply that type of growth strategy and apply it to what we might be able to learn for AEC. I think that's just going to be incredibly cool and insightful. And I just can't wait for that one.
If you missed it, Formula One, can we just pause? That's so huge to have at the pinnacle experience, to be able to hear from that team and Emily. This is going to be amazing. So Stacy, he took a pretty big one. That was probably Formula One.
Sorry.
I'm
so happy you asked me first. I ain't gonna lie.
So many other things. Stacy, what is there something else outside of Formula One that you're excited about for Atlanta?
Well, like every year, the way that we curate the content and the topics in terms of what we're bringing to the table. I'm really excited about this programming, just in terms of the presenters, but the continuity of content. And so when you think about and look at the framework, or the framework we've created, but the opportunity for marketers to learn from each other is always what I love as well. So we bring these great speakers in, but we have space for people to talk about, how can I apply this in my organization? Like, how do we make this applicable so that I can come back and show value and make implementable, intentional change around what it is that we're doing, so that we can grow as an organization. That's the whole reason that we're all coming together. So I love all the speakers that we have on board, because we all vet them as a group. We absolutely all have a say in what's happening in the content we're delivering, but it's very intentional in terms of addressing the challenges that marketers are facing today. So yes, we have a topic on AI, but it's not about, yes, of course you should be using AI. And if anyone isn't, we're way past that conversation. We're talking about how you use it as a leader to make things happen in your organization. How are you using it with your teams? How are you using it personally? But it's really about, as a senior marketer, your job is to grow your organization. I don't care if you have chief growth officer as the title of your role. It doesn't matter. As a marketer, your job is to help grow your organization. So how do we do that? Leveraging tools that are not going away. So we're always looking at that bent of things that are front facing in challenges that people are facing today, or looking at how do I leverage that to really make my firm move to the next level. So I'm really excited about all of them. I'm not going to call any one of them out because Alec already did, but but again, it's learning from people that are not sitting in our seats every day, because we get really blindsided, or we have blinders on. And sometimes it's really hard for us to break out of all the tasks, the to-do lists, all of our deadlines we have in place, to think about how we use new ideas to move things forward. That's what this program is about, is giving you that space for a couple of days to think strategically about how you make impact as a leader.
That is great. And I'm so glad that we had this discussion. I knew that we needed to bring you both on the AEC Unplugged to talk about the Pinnacle experience. And again, if we can get our scrolling thing across, the Pinnacle experience is happening. Look, you can look at the schedule, you can register, you can see all of the speakers. It's all there for you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to these awesome people here. And so before we go, I always like to end on a quick words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience. So Stacy, why don't you share words of wisdom, anything that you want people to leave thinking about after this discussion?
Well, I think that the reason why I'm so passionate about this program and why I enjoy it greatly is because if I'm not growing and evolving, what am I doing? I need to be better every day. And whether I'm working on myself, working on behalf of a client, or even just helping be a great leader for my kids, my thinking is that we should be growing and learning every day. What do they say? If you're not learning and growing, you're dying. And I feel like that. I feel like how boring would that be to be stagnant? People are going to pass you by. So you have to find opportunities and ways to grow your professional influence. And that only happens by getting outside of your comfort zone, trying new things, and making intentional, consistent effort to be better every day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so well said. Alec?
Such a good answer.
Yeah, right? It was so good.
Yeah. I will say, in relation, I think in life and also in attending events like the Pinnacle experience, I encourage everyone to embrace being present. We're all addicted to these things. It never ceases to amaze me the number of people that will be on their computer when you're at the conference and at a table. Put it away. Like, I'm not saying obviously you have to maintain some tether to work, and there's still things to be done, but take the time to actually be there, be at the table with the people, engage in the conversation. Don't go back to your hotel room. Don't sneak away. be part of the network, embrace the, the people around you, ask questions, further the engagement, use it for what the intention of that time is really meant for. Put the time to work, and don't just sulk away and go, do another proposal. It'll be there waiting for you when the conference is done. So just be there, be with your people, and really take the time to engage.
Oh, so great. Thank you both so much for being a part of AEC Unplugged. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Stacy. Well, look, another awesome episode. I really enjoyed that. So much great insight. And so if you haven't already, strongly encourage you to register now for the Pinnacle Experience happening November 6th through 8th in Atlanta, Georgia at the Four Seasons. Come to my hometown, okay? But look, the big things that I heard from today, let's keep growing. Don't get stagnant, and be present when you're there so you can really gain the insight, not just learning from the speakers, but learning from the people that are right next to you. So all that being said, look, if this doesn't encourage you to do something different, I hope that it encourages you to be something different. Thank you so much again for being here with me and my awesome guests on AEC Unplugged. I'll see you next time.